Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be going over a nor'easter potential that will be occurring, obviously, across the Northeast. It will, though, be affecting a good portion of Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia. There are winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings and winter storm watches already being issued. So we have, yes, a lot of details to cover, and there's a lot of activity elsewhere across the United States that I want to go over. I just don't want to focus on that nor'easter. I will for the most part, but there is a little system across kind of the mid portion of the country that is really the part of the nor'easter that will combine with the moisture from the south, leading to a strengthened system that will bring snow for the Northeast, if you've guessed it. Also, I do want to say that there is a pretty large system across the Northwest that is part of, I guess, the system that's bringing this little system that will produce the nor'easter system. But yeah, this system is obviously pretty snowy, and you can see even Seattle getting close to seeing some snow, but I think they're seeing rain right now. We'll be going over that. There's also very, very cold air that I want to discuss for a little bit, some lake effect. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff. So before we get into this, if you guys are new to the channel, hello, hi, welcome. I am a weather hobbyist, weather enthusiast. I talk about the weather. I love the weather, and I'm not a professional meteorologist. I always say, for the official info, go to the National Weather Service, and which is right here. So yeah, I'm just reminding you now because at the end of the video I always forget, but obviously only subscribe at the end of the video if you know this channel is good. All right, I'm done. Let's start talking about this winter storm threat. Well, several kind of multi-pronged winter storm threats. So notice across the UP we do have some winter storm warnings. Now they are pretty isolated, and that's because, well, a lot of the snow already did fall. There is still some chances for some snow across certain locations, and you can see in certain locations I think there could still be quite a bit, but again, I'm assuming a lot of this already did kind of fall. But notice that it is still snowing across portions of the UP and Wisconsin, but mainly the system that I talked about yesterday, right, the blizzard that I called, there definitely were blizzard conditions. But let's just take a look at the snowfall amounts, right? Because I talked about them yesterday, and I always want to go over if there was an underperformer, overperformer, and you can see it definitely dropped a lot of snow for these areas. I would say it was a pretty slight overperformer for some of these areas, especially areas that got over 1.5 feet. Now, it did a decent job dropping some snow across North Dakota, Minnesota, and you gotta admit that, or sorry, you gotta kind of account for the fact that these winds were creating very, very hard conditions for measuring. Now, obviously, a lot of these people that submit these reports, because this is people that report it, not necessarily just the National Weather Service offices. Some of them are definitely inaccurate because of just how hard it is to measure snow when it's super windy like it was. But again, you could see that generally an event that was ranging anywhere from kind of 3 to 5 to 7 inches in some locations. Notice southern Minnesota. If you recall, some of these areas had blizzard warnings, and yeah, the snow wasn't that significant, but the blizzard definitely was well warranted as those winds were wicked. Notice the lake effect starting to pile up across areas like Grand Rapids, north of Muskegon, right there, and portions of, well, the upper peninsula of Michigan, which is, or sorry, the upper northern part of mainland Michigan, which is around 4 or 5 inches. And notice that, yeah, that's the system over there. We do have that snow across the Northwest starting to bring in those snowfall amounts, 24 inches right there, pretty good amount. And notice you do have some across Nebraska into Colorado, 13, 12 inches. Some got 3, 4, 5, Cheyenne. Just south of North Platte, I think, I don't know if you even got any snow. You were forecasted to get 4 to 6 from the National Weather Service. And let me just play back this radar loop to see whether or not that was a mistake or not, or, you know, to estimate such high snowfall amounts. Okay, so it looks like you guys did get some snow based on how was the intensity and how quick this kind of went through your area. I do apologize, it is a bit glitchy, this weather radar, but based on how quick that went through your area, I'm assuming you only picked up a few inches, probably not 4 to 6, but at the same time, it's a possibility. I don't know, but there aren't any reports coming in from there yet. And notice this thing right here is definitely dropping a lot of snow for Idaho, or it did drop a lot of snow for Idaho from this thing, and this one's going to also move and drop quite a bit more snow. It's mainly, though, across Washington and Oregon right now, bringing snow and rain, though it's pretty cold across these locations. And again, that's what will arise or allow this nor'easter to form, this very cold air mass. And let me go back here quickly to the National Weather Service office, go from the radar, and just show you, there's that nor'easter beginning across the mid-Atlantic. It will probably continue issuing storm warnings and watches along the northeast coast, except it's further out, right? It starts over here and moves along there, so it's less confidence, but you can see there are already some winter storm watches. Now notice the Northwest, look at that, winter storm warnings for a good portion of the of this area. I don't know if Seattle by itself is in a winter weather advisory. I would assume it potentially, as there is a chance for some rain and snow. Yeah, you can see that they're not really expecting any accumulations, but I mean definitely marginal temperatures, 38, 36, right? That's very, very almost close enough to see that snowfall. Notice that again, further west across Washington, Idaho, Panhandle, there could be decent amounts of snow. In fact, very, very heavy snow amounts across the Stevens Pass and whatnot. The Wasatch, the Colorado Rockies, right there into the Grand Tetons, picking up good areas of snow. And look, even into Kansas City, we could see some snow of 1 to 2 inches tonight. So anywhere, if you're in this advisory that you saw here earlier, get ready for some snow. That includes northern Kansas and portions of Missouri. And right here, it's mainly lake effect. Here is also lake effect for these two lakes up here. And then let's shift gears towards this mid-Atlantic snowstorm. So let's just quickly see what the National Weather Service thinks. Again, 2 to 3 inches, 2 to 3, 2 to 3. A lot of these areas still have snow from that snow that fell just a few days ago that caused those massive backups on the Virginia Highway. Thankfully, this one, if you're still kind of crawling out of that one, it will be further towards the north. But areas like Fredericksburg, I think, got like a foot plus of snow, or if not even more than that. You know, you could still see some snow, 2 to 4 inches. That's a pretty good amount, but this time it looks to be centered a bit further towards the north and west. So if you live in West Virginia, for example, right, Charleston, you might get some pretty good snow out of this. You could see 1 to 3 inches, an inch total, around probably 1 to 5, 2 to 5. I'm assuming that's what the winter storm. All right, this one calls 4 to 8, but you can see Charleston is kind of getting, gets the short end of the stick. So yeah, and then as you move into New York City, they haven't expanded the winter weather advisories yet. I say yet because it's probably going to happen, and you can see that they're predicting right now 2, 3, 4 inches, so not a massive event, but do note that as it goes towards Boston area, the snowfall amounts do pick up, and let's take a look at them. And I know I'm going through this quickly, but I want to go through as many areas as possible. You can see 4 to 6, with, again, potentially even some more, because this is still a bit away, and if this system is a bit stronger, 4 to 6 inches, I guess, according to them, is enough to issue that winter storm watch, I'm assuming, because this is probably the big one of the year, or sorry, the biggest one of the season yet for the coastal areas, and it's going to be falling very quickly, probably during a morning or afternoon commute, which is, because usually 4 to 6 inches, that's more of an advisory criteria, but we'll see. Again, these nor'easters could either sometimes overperform or underperform very aggressively. All right, let's get at this. So GFS model, again, I'll continue my quick pace because I want to cover many different features. I don't want to just show you one model and tell you, oh, this will happen with this model, and that's how it's going to occur. There's definitely many scenarios, and that's kind of what makes the weather more fun if you understand it's so many scenarios, different ones, and then you see that one scenario that one model predicts actually comes true, and then you get a good view of why you have to look at many models. All right, regardless, notice we have a lot of snow across the northwest. That's what the radar is showing. We do have that snow across Kansas and Missouri. Notice it does start mixing with that southern moisture, right? That southern kind of, well, I guess the ocean moisture, Gulf of Mexico, Atlantic moisture later on. By already today, late at night and into early Thursday morning. Notice Tennessee, Kansas, Arkansas, southern Missouri, northern Mississippi, extreme northern Alabama picking up some wintry precip and snow. This thing continues along the axis of this cold air, and this cold air will be cold. It has a very strong jet stream. It supports that development of that nor'easter. And I do want to show you, I went back to this map, all of these blue colors I didn't talk about, those are winter weather, or sorry, those are wind chill watches or advisories or warnings. That's pretty much for very cold air that is amplified with those wind chills. Very low wind chills. So notice the actual temperatures, yeah, I mean, they're pretty darn cold, negative 21 degrees. That's what there's forecast for tonight. Wind chills, obviously getting that towards negative 40, which is just downright dangerous. And notice that it extends for all of Minnesota, all of Iowa, all of Nebraska, all of Kansas, Oklahoma, northern Texas. Just these areas getting a bit spared. Illinois, Wisconsin, you're really just kind of stopping across the Mississippi area, going just a bit over the Mississippi River, I should say. So yeah, definitely a brutal attack of cold air. Let me see if I can find like the coldest location. I think right there will be very cold based on that map. Yeah, you can see it's already negative 15. It's supposed to get to negative 29 at Thursday night with wind chills as low as 51, which is just absolutely barbaric. All right, now let's go back to this model and start showing you this development. This is 6 p.m. tomorrow. Thursday, 6 p.m. This is what it looks like. You can see a decent storm system already developing. Pretty nasty winds, pretty nasty snow across a lot of these locations. Mainly the snow, not necessarily the wind. Northern areas, you know, the Virginia area really got clobbered with heavy, wet snow last time. This one will be a bit drier, a bit fluffier, especially the further north you go into Pennsylvania and what's not. Again, that's that first batch. Notice the nor'easter starts taking on that northeast tilt up towards the northeast. And then notice New York City gets caught in some of this crossfire, if you will, on Thursday and Friday. Really early Friday into Friday afternoon, and then it reaches Boston, Maine, and it really starts intensifying into a rather beast of a system. You know, if this goes even a bit closer towards the shore, these amounts could really amplify by quite a bit, especially for New England, not necessarily, I guess, the Mid-Atlantic or southern portions of the Northeast. But again, if it's further away, those amounts can drop quite a bit less. But yes, you know, the little corner of Maine right there, they could see a lot of precipitation, a lot of snow. Again, that system does develop into strong ones. So yes, not a massive nor'easter. It's gonna be pretty weak, I would say, actually, for a nor'easter. But you know, I think it's still one of the bigger events of the year so far, which I guess doesn't say much, or I guess it says quite a bit about how weak the winter has been thus far in terms of snow. The cold, again, it's been rather plentiful, or at least average, since kind of the new year began, or really the last few weeks of. Just the last few weeks. Alright, so I showed you the GFS model, right? Let's see the total snowfall. Again, pretty in line with what the National Weather Service is showing. Shows a bit more for Tennessee, though. So again, if I do see any overperformance in any of these models, I would say it's probably the Tennessee, Kentucky area thus far. Again, there may be many other areas of overperformance, or there might be just a few underperformers. But again, you can see the Northeast really doesn't see a lot, but I mean, in general, 2 to 4 inch event, enough to cover the snow, go sledding, what's not, you know, do some of those activities. Definitely not enough to cancel school or work or any of those kind of snow day dreams, unfortunately. But, you know, I mean, it's still January, so don't let your hopes get completely washed out. Let's see the Canadian. It's a different model. Notice that the amounts are slightly different. We do have generous amounts across Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia. Again, some of these are, you know, actually this is higher than what the National Weather Service is predicting. Let me just double check, because for Kentucky they do have winter storm warnings, so I'm assuming those amounts are going to be a bit higher. But I think one area that the models or the National Weather Service is kind of underestimating is Tennessee, because for Kentucky they do have decent amounts. You can see Jackson, Kentucky, 3 to 5, 1 to 2. Yeah, I would say that's reasonable. But for example, you know, Central Tennessee, these amounts may be increased here. Now again, 2 to 3 is still a good estimation, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see, you know, 2 to maybe 5 in some of these locations. You know, a bit more than what's, I guess, predicted. But again, it's not going to be overperformer where you're going to just get half a foot randomly. It could be, again, and right here, 1 to 3, I guess, is decent, but I would say 2 to 4 probably be more appropriate based on the models we're looking at. And again, the models have been relatively consistent with this. That's the midnight run of the Canadian. This is the newest one. You can see also shows a bit more for Boston, the Northeast, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and into portions of Maine. And notice New York City not picking up too much. Again, 1 to 2, 1 to 3 inches potentially. And yeah, you can see that even some of that snow spreads into Arkansas, southern Illinois, and southern Missouri. Let's take a look at another model called, well, the European one. Let's time this out for you. Notice there's our little system tonight. It picks up that moisture, really heavy snow across Tennessee with the European tomorrow in the afternoon, the midday hours. Notice that does spread towards the mid-Atlantic really quickly, and actually almost kind of disconnects from the moisture off the ocean there for a second. Notice right there, right? And that could be a bit of a weakening phase, or sorry, that could be that weakening, I guess, scenario could drop a bit less snow for the Virginia area, for example, maybe. But again, it still looks pretty good, the European, in line with what the European or with what the National Weather Service shows. A quick hitter for the Northeast with this one, according to the European. I think a bit quicker than what the other models show. Begins to slow down again. If it's a bit closer, that could spread into more of the United States kind of area that we forecast. And in terms of total snowfall, let's just take a glance at the 10 to 1 inch ratio, and boom, right there you can see these amounts are pretty generous. Again, pretty high amounts for Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia. Virginia a bit less, but again, it does start picking back up across New Jersey, Long Island, maybe the portions of Northeast, and the tip of Maine right there. 11 inches. Again, that could be a bit closer inland, or if it does take a closer track. We have the access to the short range models now. These models go out to 84 hours, and they're pretty good when looking at short term systems like the Northeast or like this nor'easter. Notice the NAM really doesn't show a lot for the Northeast here. It does show quite a bit for Tennessee, West Virginia. Let's go up to its most recent model run. There we go. This is assuming a 10-to-1. Let's take on Kuchera. Yeah, you can see the Kuchera, which is the more accurate snowfall ratio, shows even more for some of these areas, which is quite a good amount. But again, it does show not a lot across these areas, which I'm assuming it just never strengthens that system, or it just takes it, let's go back, it just takes it completely off of the shore. And let's actually track that out, because a NAM is usually a good model, but, you know, it does tend to kind of sometimes be an outlier in certain scenarios. Yeah, so it does show snow, it just never really phases it with the southern part and keeps the heaviest off the shore. So that is definitely interesting. Let's take a look at some other high-res models. The RDPS Canadian high-res, another very good model that I like to look at, and you can see right there, boom. Total Kuchera snowfall amounts. Yeah, this one's a bit probably more in line, especially for the Northeast, those higher amounts. Maybe a bit too much for the Virginia area, but honestly, some 8 to 10 inch amounts, especially across the higher elevated areas, are definitely not out of the question. Her model, this is a very, very now short range model. It goes out to 48 hours every 6 hours, and the most recent one is just coming in. So let's go back to the 18Z1 Kuchera, and you can see right there, boom, a lot across Virginia, decent amounts across Tennessee, pretty good amounts across even New Jersey, central kind of Delaware and Maryland. And then look at that, a little strip of very heavy snow across Connecticut and Massachusetts and whatnot. I could actually time this out for you and show you how this model compares the system to other ones. And let's see, so again, that's tonight into Missouri, through Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, seeing that snow, pretty quick moving, but it's going to be very heavy snow for a short amount of time, which I guess, thankfully, at least it's going to be mainly for the overnight hours for a lot of the locations, kind of, I guess, east of the Mississippi or west of the Mississippi. But once you start getting towards western Kentucky, Tennessee, that's kind of the afternoon commute, almost, so that's going to be a bit risky. But then notice, boom, this thing starts ticking on that tilt, where it does kind of weaken up with some of those amounts across Virginia, right? But then it does start strengthening very quickly, and you can see that the millibars really start dropping quickly. And by the time it's at the level of kind of Boston, the low pressure, it's already a very strong system. But you can see it's a bit too far off the coast to be a complete monster in terms of snow. But it does drop quite a bit, as you saw. The Her model really did show quite a bit of that snowfall with the forecast right there. Let's take a look at the RAP, another good model, a very short range one, very similar to the Her, but they do have their differences. And notice that it also does favor a lot of snow actually over here, very significant amounts. That would be not good if you're not a snow lover, but if you want snow across these areas, hopefully this model does come true. Notice New Jersey also is picking up good amounts. This would be an overperformer for New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts. And I always like looking at these models because these usually create the trend. So if this continues, by tomorrow in the evening, some of these amounts that the National Weather Service has across portions of the Northeast with, 1 to 2 across New York City. If a scenario like the NAM model, wait, not necessarily the NAM, because the NAM weakens it, but the RDPS, the Canadian, or which a Canadian high-res, the Her model or the RAP model come true, some of these amounts here maybe a bit higher than just a 1, 2, 1 to 2, or 1, 2, 3. They may be, again, approaching that kind of 4 to 5 inch mark, as you saw in some of these models right there, even over 6 inches. Now, again, this is our high-end scenario. I don't think that it will be this high. Again, those are some of the models pointing that, but I do think that it will be a bit higher than what their expected snowfall is currently. And same goes with the areas of Kentucky and Tennessee. I think some of these amounts are a bit underplayed. I do think some of these amounts could be kind of 3 to 5 rather than 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. These amounts further south may be accurate because the rain will be a bit more of an influence and warmer temperatures, but further towards the north, it doesn't seem like that may be the case. And let's just take a look at kind of northern central Tennessee. Yeah, 3 to 5 inches. It's quite a bit more than what they had there in the graphic. So I think this is honestly acceptable. And you can see the winter weather advisory calls to 2 to 4, but definitely the National Weather Service has bumped this up in the past few hours, which I wouldn't be surprised if they do that once more before the storm actually occurs. But again, guys, yeah, that's basically it for today's video. I just wanted to cover this nor'easter again. Not a massive event, but I just wanted to talk about it. It is raining right now across the same area that on Friday in Maine could be, dealing with a foot of snow. So I guess that's the northeast weather for you. All right, that's basically it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.